But the father in the parable of the prodigal son embraced his son back in as a son and not a slave, even though the son was willing to go back in as a slave. What that implies, seeing as, of course, the prodigal son, not prodigal son, but the father in that parable is typological of our Father in heaven. So therefore, the prodigal son is also typological of us on earth when we walk in folly. It says that at any given time we can always be restored to God, and even before we are completely cleansed, purified, and restored to Him, He still regards us as sons and daughters. Though we're still filthy and though we think that we will only be restored to Him as slaves, He will receive us at any time as sons insofar as we come back home. So that's the love of God for the human race. He loves the human race so much that while it was within His prerogative to kill Cain, He didn't. If anything, He gave him protection that no one can harm him. He put a mark on his body saying that no one is going to harm you, seeing as you who have killed your brother, look at you go. Anyway, it's fine. I'll put a mark on your body so no one will harm you. That is God. God gives us undue love, undue favor. God gives us unrequited love. That's what I'm getting at. He gets nothing in return. We keep spitting in His face, but He gives it to us anyway. So if God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whomsoever shall believeth upon Him will not perish but have everlasting life, and this Son that He sent, His own people didn't recognize Him and they killed Him, and then when He was dying He still said, forgive them, Father, for they don't know what they're doing. Do you not see how an entire human race writhing because they keep getting cannibalistically devoured by giants? Can you not see how a God, like the one that we see in the Gospels, like the one that we see in the story of Cain and Abel, like the one that we see in the story of the Hebrews in the wilderness, even though they did not deserve any of any of that which God gave them, nonetheless He gave it to them. That God that is so magnanimous, do you not see how it is entirely feasible that He would be that magnanimous in the flood? Not in the flood, in the pre-flood, in the antediluvian world. Can you see how He would, at that stage, then completely, because of how much human beings are writhing, even though they're not exactly calling out on Him, just eviscerate the thing that's making them writhe, destroy the thing that's making them writhe, though they are yet to come back home? Do you not see the protections that God will award His foster children that have yet to be adopted into the family? Do you not see the protections He will give you anyway? So Nduminduwe, it appears we're at an impasse now. Unzwer, that has to elicit this. Look at you go. You have to figure out what needs to happen over here. Abutiduwe, you are the terror on South Africa. You are like either the Watchers or their deadbeat cannibalistic children. You are something that is wreaking a handsome amount of havoc on people that have not yet called out to God, because are you not so polytheistic? Look at you with your syncretism out here, hanging around in these streets like you something special with 28 gods. South Africa is nowhere near ready, just dying, but look at you being also nowhere near ready, letting go of your 28,079 deities. You have got idolatry from here to 20,000 years. You've got idolatry grooving into the skin like a tattoo. You have got idolatry feasting on a scalp like psoriasis. You have got idolatry devouring away at the body like some maggots on a cadaver after it's been dead a few days and left in the wilderness. You have got idolatry like sprouts of hair on a teenager's face in adolescence. You've got idolatry like a ravenous yeast infection in the nether regions of a woman that likes wearing silk underwear. You've got idolatry. And with all of your many, many gods that have given you thrush in that state, nonetheless are writhing. Look at the audacity to do such a thing as that. The brazen audacity to complain, to gnash your teeth. Have the brazen audacity to feel uncomfortable about how things are going with your deadbeat government, you with your 20,000 gods. You have the brazen audacity to be all disquieted and uncomfortable about the fact that the ANC stinks. You've got a brazen audacity to lament and shake on the spot like a washing machine at the end of its wash cycle every time the power goes off in this country. The audacity to be all uncomfortable about the corruption going on in your corporates until all of y'all lose your jobs from retrenchment number 5 in the same year, even though the company's EBITDA is above a certain level. You have got idolatry so exquisite. In the midst of all of your idolatry, you've got idolatry so exquisite in the midst of all that idolatry that you can't even wake up to smell the coffee to realize that the reason why we're dying as a country is because what's with the halal food all over our shelves as a Christian country? What is with the lack of regard for people's constitutional rights and us thinking that Get you barking. Le withhold the constitutional rights from bana ba bang mo strateng. Hore ha lena motlakase, ha lena mesebetsi, di malls tsa lona they're getting empty. The foreigners ba lenkelang mesebetsi La toy. In my earlier video. So ridiculous are you in your unemployment that now even documented foreigners are at the merciless knives or blades end of your indiscretion. Even foreigners that are documented. And then you claim no, it's just undocumented foreigners so you can look politically correct, when rather your xenophobia is caused by your lack of understanding as to why and the heaven it is. So you're blaming it on foreigners instead of waking up to smell the coffee that the same government that treated y'all like Zimbabweans when you were South African. It's the reason why you don't have jobs. It is not because of foreigners. You don't have jobs because the ANC sucks. You don't have jobs because the post-apartheid regime sucks. You don't have jobs because white people are complacent with their white money, chilling in a corner thinking that they, and they alone, are going to be ensconced from this country's indiscretions. And so therefore cocoon themselves in their little tiny silos, enough for them to even think that they can make the Cape independent from the rest of South Africa. And then migrate there. You will writhe, Lankutwa South Africans. You are presently writhing. You're writhing. You're writhing. I mean, who doesn't complain about load shedding? I'm blessed because we've got solar panels, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't have power anyway. Because, I mean, listen, this is South Africa. The brazen audacity to complain. Ukunkonkotha. Angisho ngifundiswe isiZulu from Bugela uJonas Sigomora. What a befitting surname. Little gay deviant, however, that's got 7 wives. That's Dumi. He's exactly like Jonas. But in spite, Zinjanduwe. Avukala though nikhalelani, you brought it onto yourself. Nikhalelani. When we were kids, my grandfather, what a harsh man. Every time we were washing dishes, bese siyapula izitsha. If a plate fell and pum, a cup, a mug, whatever, bese breaker. Make us shy. And if we cried, he would shy us even more and say, I will give you a reason you're cut. So essentially, you were supposed to just like, and be brave. Rambo. Because how can he was so harsh. He was so incredibly harsh. And yo, what you deserve is the kind of treatment from God that my grandfather used to just slather us with. Chapelo tuba plate, wow tuba di plate, why do you got slippery fingers? Why matsohaho? Anale botoromo. Otlo tuba di plate na renal chelte vosang di fateng. Wow, illa. And you will end up. I can't. Otherwise, levanta leo, little creator the map, mo easy, mo di roping everywhere. Matanga, the thigh, the calves, maraming. Leba, okay, maybe not marama, because we got a spanking until we had maps on our bodies. And we had to keep quiet through it all, stick it out like proper, swallow it, and then only that's when you would like burst out. Well, Shapi. But you could just get beaten out for way too long for simply crying. Cause why your fingers got butter on them? Why you dropping dishes? Ain't nobody got money growing from trees to keep buying new crockery, for crying out loud. God, you deserve him to treat you the way that to basically respond to your butter fingers, the way that my grandfather responded to our butter fingers. Beat you up until you finally have a reason to cry buggers, because look at you writhing right now when you caused this disaster. You dropped some plates on the kitchen counter, and now God is about to give you a beat down. Consequences are about to shower you like some thunderstorms. But you have a God who, when you cry, even if you're not crying to him, and if you cry for long enough, the way that umama uzwela umntana wakhe buhlungu, that was running up and down Jarata. Mwateng ansari, Tapo, hey, stop running around kontlu. Go jarateng. Hey, uskamata walk. Hey, uskamata walk. Hey, uskamata walk. Otoliman. Muchika Lomuntu is busy. Speedy Gonzalez, he is the Flash. He is bouncing on the walls, up and down. But I mean, have you ever heard the cry of Umtanomngane? Magazwe obhlungu ngempela, not when they're faking it. Yo, that stuff will pierce you like some shards are breaking in your heart. To hear the painful cry of a child when they are genuinely hurt. When they're genuinely hurt and not just trying to get attention. Umntwana magakhala kanjalo, you will drop everything. And I'm not even a mom, but I had a little sister that naye wawa like that. Yo, asha dumpi, she had a dumpi for the next couple of days. It was so heartbreaking to look at that dumpi. Stop riding the bicycle in the house. Wow, and had this like ridiculous dumpi, and though umuntu was in another place, another part of the house, you will run, you will drop everything you're doing just to go and attend to this painful cry. So you rebuked the kid Stop doing this thing. God, when that thing bears horrible consequences. When a child cries like that, like, but I told you. Not yet. You'll finally get to the point of saying, but I told you. You will. You will get to the point, ice cream. No, mara lwena lerato ke chilo ka re tloela o drive bicycle ko ntlong. Tloela o drive bicycle mo le mo skangeng sele. Tloela o matha kokoko. Tloela why? Aja ice cream. Khoga mamina. Setse ba mo 40 seats. Then you rebuke them gently, or you just kind of highlighted that, but I told you. But in the heat of that, that cry that comes ka mokhotolo. You're trying to eradicate physical pain that is excruciating. Ain't no time to be injecting also emotional pain. Of chiki wamufodisa, wamukamfata, where at least the emotions can be catered to, because the physical state is debilitated. So really, let's not add insult to injuries. I hope that's how you be dealing with some children. Some of y'all be actually nice and abusive anyway. So, God Almighty is not like my grandfather, who will trap you cause reason you can. I'll give you a reason, boy. It's what guy that screech, hey, yo. If I were to strong. I'm Herculean. You keep quiet. There are certain people that just don't got no room for any of y'all's tears. Yeah, but God is not that guy. The Lord God Almighty, Maukala, just like that very heartbreaking cry, Yuntwana, uzokhamfata in the time of your cries. Kodwa kusasa uzokutshela kodwa nawe muyenza. Sese uja ice cream ule betere ukhokama mina mutefi. Yo, but I told you, Anisho. I sent my servant, Anisho, Njur. She cast pearls to pigs and gave her to sacred to dogs, and you trampled her underfoot and then tore her to pieces. Listen to Banabak, Labankera Bokamoso. Abish, Laba Lashala Korea, Laba Lashala China, Laba Lashala sometimes maybe go America, Laba scatter around like some Skittles in the diaspora. You did that to my babies. Look at that girl, hey? Sisi Nana, look at your wonderful feats. Now look, South Africa has bled some people. Now look, South Africa has been deranged. You have this audacity, South Africa, or just any idolatrous country. I think it's pretty much all of you. To writhe when Nephilim are devouring you whole, but were you not so evil that you embraced them? Did you not love Usemiazi when he was out teaching you to do magic and sorcery? Who was the one that taught them sorcery? There's one whose name eludes me. I believe Semiazi was in charge of metallurgy. Like Olirutile swords, like cling, 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 how to make weapons. And then another one of these fallen angels taught y'all makeup, how to make yourselves prettier. And then another one taught y'all Boloi, secrets of heaven, that's letalana on earth. It's basically spiritual power. And when then it's used against God, it's called witchcraft. It's not called a miracle Lawanda, it's not called a, what do you call this? It's not called prophecy when it's not coming from God, it's called psychic, medium. But all this stuff, divining, it's not called inquiring of the Lord, that you might get an answer. When it's not in Christ, it's called divining. It's called astrology. It's called, you get my point. It has a different name when it's not from the Lord, but it has a source that is heavenly. And these are secrets that were brought down by these watchers. Yeah. So, I mean, you freaking diviner, you little nasty mongrel that wants to go and grab the gift of prophecy that God has given a saint and make her a psychic or a medium. Bona nonsense alone. Now your country, manzi in a bucket, perforated. Your country is now looking some kind of nasty. It's gurgling blood. It's wheezing. It's coughing out sputum. I see purple. Listen, it's very sick. And then you cry. Oh, but I mean, did you not use magic from fallen angels? Did you not continue and insist upon your fornication? Did you not exchange natural relations with each other? You lesbians, you. And you gays. Did you not just insist on keeping this thing up? Like you did. Romans 1, you exchanged the truth of God for a lie. And so God handed you over to a reprobate mind. You exchanged the worship of God to the worship of all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small. You exchanged the worship of God to the worship of creepy crawlies and beasts in the wilderness. And then when you were corrected, you took God's disciples and put them in a dungeon, held them hostage. Like, listen, you did whatever you wanted to do. And now, kshubile. And after kshubagangaga, ukarabo wahamba wati yazene khapo. Nonsense. Marabishi ndina ngizengeni ndabazenu kensha mfila ngati nonke ngwamele ni bote. When Karabo rocked up and said that, you then were like, if only I could hit that. You were still planning to sleep with me. Your attraction to me is eerily similar to the attraction by the watchers of the daughters of men. You are fallen people into magic and you've got crafts and arts from another space that ought not be on earth, and you use them to beguile the human race. And then you try to sleep with the daughters of men. You are like watchers that developed a crush on women. Watchers that developed crushes on women and then took for them wives. And so we bear sons unto you, right? You're weird and you're freaky, but you see, in those very days, there were men like Enoch, kunabantu abangathinteki ngama-watchers, nama-experiments abo on the human race. And the tantamount of Enoch today is abokarobo so abazalwane. Athinteki ngama-experiments enu. Nina enbuka abantu baka God nithanda imithi niyathakatha la loya lethwala ka dimpa tsa batho a bathong le rututse diphiri le kgona ho lo ba le basadi go di hoteleng ebe le nka mekete ya mekana masaka mekotla e tletseng ka never mind their own wealth and success. Mara wealth and success ya dimpa tsa bona mosadi wa teng 3 years down the line a qeta ho nyala fiance ya teng ya ba batla ho ba le bana ba sa kgone. Nifundiswe zai dipiris die mifihlos le rutisitswe ke bo mang ke bo semiyaziso. The fallen angels still to this day di busy ka lona ya le ruta mo strateng ebe le tlo experimenta ka rona ha o ka mo be le tlo batla ho lo nka Enochs abo sisters nje so abafana no bo Enoch ebe le tlo ba le bona ehle ona le remnant e modimo tlo dulang I preserve. The Lord will always preserve a remnant. So asizothatheka thina ngamagadi mamara wabona the way that you were so attracted to the daughters of men, how beautiful, gorgeous those made in the image of God were, enough for fallen angels to think, to me I need to go and get me a piece of that. Yo, fallen angels were like, break me off a piece with it. Made in the image of God. People made in the image of God. Well, how that translates to modern day women who, I mean, we're all made in the image of God, right? Like, listen, love your humanity. But like, some of us see consecrating in Pella were, what's the word? Circumcised in the spirit. We are born again. Rebana pa morena Jesu. Rebama hodi monsio. I know yitige, because I sure old things get old on you. Regular women made in the image of God they were not enough, right? Regular women made in the image of God, whose wombs you took in hotel rooms, it wasn't enough, because even in the Bible it is written that the eye of man is never satisfied, hey? Like death and Sheol. Like the greed yamoto, rapacity yamoto, enough. It doesn't put down a spoon or a fork or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't put down food. It doesn't put down a fork or a spoon or some chopsticks. It don't put nothing down. It don't put nothing down. The eye of man. So after let's get that whole ungodly women that is presented before their eyes, that get blown away by the tsunami of Korobela. When you're done totoraring, I'll get out totorabo girl by the fats. Yo, I think you jungle Juanonga skilo. So that wicked Madia Banababa. Or you are non feeling to Karabu sex. Tana weird crass language. I'm Nankangu to Karabuya Kaz. No, she's impressive. Who isn't impressive when they're in Christ? Even the scriptures say many women have done excellently, but she surpasses them also. Yeah, of course I'm impressive. But I'm not yours for the taking. I'm not yours to keep. It's not finders, keepers, losers, weepers. This is not dibs, brah. But you calling it. I know, if it's out to horrible girl by earth. Basas buying skele, they're so worldly that Baglaba Divanilis Contir. Mastrata, she's so worldly. Yeah. Shall I say cul-de-sac? Shall I say short left? Short left at T-junction. The wailing Mastrata gatting, she's so worldly. This worldly chick that is the one and the same thing with the yield sign. The way I do that lemon fatsing gatting, strating, I said trapagating. Wam suta, wam bola. Wapodla umayna, wapodla urefilo ukinelwe, and then you looked in direction kakarawa and you were like, yo, I know more lessons than nokhona lenkazimul. The eye of man is never satisfied. After you've squandered enough squanderable women, though there are more of them to go around, since the road is narrow that leads to life and only a few people find it, you then dared imagine yourself a feasible entrant into that kingdom over there that's consecrated. That's when God was like, okay, it's a controversy and I'm picking it with these monsters. When you start trying to come for the daughters of God, not so much the daughters of men. No. You're not gonna win, oh, you grabby paw. You and your clothes. You and your hoof. You and your hoof. You're not gonna make it. Yeah, but you're gonna try. Because I get on this boys to get the daughters of men. You've been spoiled by women that salivate, pant like little puppy dogs. After imali zenu. Enough to allow themselves to be withered away at Ingati they are eroding sand, eroding rock in a hotel. Falling in love with a guy that don't make no kind of sense. Good clear, red flags are all over the show, but you're still running with it. Can your naivety be so exquisite that you will ignore that a guy hollered at your friend and you at the same time? But listen, you've got a big crush. Women are just settling for that kind of trash. And then you go and you find Karabo chilling in a corner out here trying to do the things of God, and you're like, ooh, learning because anything to recruit anyone into their cults, otherwise known as churches. And so because of the love and kindness of God that tends to dwell in his disciples, you then think that we're an easy reach, an easy grab because we're Christian, and then that becomes your Achilles heel, because it becomes clear rather that they are more difficult, if anything, impossible, impregnable to catch than worldly women. But you tend to pass us up initially. Why? You tend to walk right by us. Why? Because we don't fornicate, we don't put out, we don't do any of that. So, but when time progresses, you get tired of the shallow chick that out here is willing to accommodate you, giving her HIV and yet sticking around anyway. You know how worldly women are so weird like that? Guys do the most to them and they still stick around? Yeah. Women that are that easy to just blow around. Because witchcraft is pregnant. I will not take that away from you. It's hectic, it's strong. It can make a woman nice and dumb. You then think that you can do the same thing in me. See, that's why you keep on experimenting with me. All that you do is just incense me further. You berate me further. You annoy me. You just you make me more determined not to barge, buggers. So the more I discover your concerted efforts to try and get that which you can't get, the more I'm like, look at these buggers out here, like etching in more thickly, more richly into my resolve. The fact that they will have to elicit that the only way that I'm going to come back and talk to them is if they actually ask me to come back and step off my chest and recognize in themselves that they've been entirely naive this whole time. The thing that I will ever bite, whatever it is that they're trying to make me chew. I'll never do it. But listen, by elicitation, by the time you come back groveling and begging, if you come back groveling and begging, you will not be demanding from me what you are presently demanding. As at today, on the 1st of July, it was the 30th of June when I first started talking here. Yeah, I know, you're still at it, dog, like my man. Like, you're still harassing me with sex dreams, sex nightmares. Be with me, lead 27,000. I don't even know how any of y'all could fathom calculably in your brains as you're doing a mathematical calculation that I would ever end up in any of y'all's lives. Like, how is that even feasible? Will you share me among yourselves? Will you all rape me? You are famished. You are famished of God's word because you've been consuming it mahala and fella all this time. During the time when I was underground, God made it that way. He did it that way that you might ultimately, by the time I walked away from you permanently, elicit that the only way to bring me back is if you respect me by giving me my YouTube channel and realizing I will never be with any of y'all. Gross. By the time you listen to this video, I will either be in Korea because you were that stubborn, or I will still be talking from South Africa. But listen, I've got a YouTube channel that's got some kind of vibrancy in it. In any life, it's got a pulse and everything. It's got blood coursing through its veins like a living being. Because I'm no longer shadow banned by some illustrious horse of the country. One of two things will either give over here, but it's up to you which ones give. However, if you do not successfully elicit what God is trying to elicit out of you, that which is a most devastating sorrow will eventually ensue. Your country will lose everything. You, being citizens of the country, will lose everything. Though you had it in you to just not lose everything. You displayed that during the World Cup. So if you let the country fry and bry today, you did it to yourselves. You were salvageable. There was enough to work with, but you didn't. In my long form that's coming, and even before, I spoke about Charles Wesley and John Wesley, credited for staying the English Revolution. So really and truly, will you allow saints of the living God to stay the South African Revolution? Will you? If you will, then great. The country doesn't have to suffocate. The country does not have to not have any food on the shelves of FMCGs. The country does not have to endure what it will inevitably endure. But what I find cataclysmic in your character is that you have the brazen audacity to dare writhe. You have the brazen audacity to dare writhe. That, oh, look at the cannibals, they're eating us. You are the ones that accommodated their dads to teach you witchcraft. What's wrong with you? You were the ones that were willing to out you high five some angels. Dog, you're not supposed to be communing with those beings unless they're coming in the name of the Lord. You were the ones that did not want to walk away from fornication, did not want to walk away from unequal yoking, did not want to hold on to your one God. Instead, you, like I said, you and your pantheon of gods, your plethora of gods. So very many numerous gods. It's not going to give nyajelwa. Way truth life. Kodwa ni spice ke lemsaka. Hangata ba ka taba go modimo tsholo re kena tsela fela ya go kena mahodimong. Lona latsa, you know that you know that you know what you know that you don't know that you don't know. Cause it's domja. That man, it can't just be Jesus only. Ni eskhokweni as a concept nonke manhle batho. Every day when you pass away from car accidents, heart attacks, strokes, whatever, just irresponsibility, falling off a building, falling off a chair. And look at you be nice and weak, breaking your medulla oblongata and then ceasing to breathe and so pass away. All these things that you're dying from daily, you're going to hell. But no, there's got to be other ways. Yeah, there are, except they don't lead to heaven. Your polytheism, your syncretism, your many gods. Dalasisho. I know. Nyamoshelwa. Now look at you, prodigal son, except you're not even a prodigal yet. You're not even trying to come back home. You're still in a brothel, out here burping the saliva of a prostitute. And you are still But I really don't like sleeping with prostitutes. Because look at all this gonorrhea in my body. You arrive and you're crying about the gonorrhea in your body and the mumps on your lips. And you're still not trying to go back home. You're still experimenting with dithapo, diropu, ntho tse tjheswang dikerese. You're still experimenting ngazo zonke lezi zinto eziningi nje. Ushubile, ugwinya amapilisi ure awufole mara. Because you got a super bug bugger. You gotta go and be attached to some IVs in a hospital. Mara wena ubhizi nzo momo nangara ke di-smarties. The antibiotics ko jarateng. How about real help? Because of le gonorrhea prostitute yen. Le chlamydia prostitute yen. Le AIDS prostitute yen. Nisalala nayo. Kodwa nibhizi nimumuna. Ingathi ngama sweets, amapilisi that are not going to do anything for you when you need to be tied. Tubes coming in and out of your body. Ingati you are Neo in the Matrix before being unplugged out of the Matrix. That's how many tubes you have to be, injected with esibhedlela nje fela hofola for motho e o tshwereng mara wena sentse no mo mona dipilisi nkare ke di-smarties. It's a very low level entry level. That's how the ha di tlo go etsa nekese. However, because you don't want to be checked into a hospital because when ha ba tlo admit, you got work to do, dog. Too busy when not to be admitted. Izusa momuna hlafuna kare ke chepis ilisinyana etle never you etsetse nekes. And Garab was like, yo, listen nje lazy. The audacity ukuyokhala indaba ukuthi mina ngigqwele ngegonorrhea ure. Angafuni the true solution to that very sickness. Liyakhenga, dog. And then mina kwensha piskele mseno angispaya anginandaba nayo. But God is God, right? He cares more for you than I angiboni next, dog. Yo, South Africans akilibone ka next. Ningilambisile lana from affection for how many years? Katele yini say, yo, dog, mamela, I've got trauma. Y'all want to keep me in the black community in terms of who I'm gonna marry, right? You want to make sure that I marry a black man because you feel like I'm a travesty and a loss to black men or black people, especially considering ngizobengiphumelana paraffin with jet fuel on my sneakers running out because of your collective abuse of my person. But the one thing in ikhohlwayo is that I'm not an Uncle Tom. Angiqalanga mina ngithi ngifuna indoda yomlungu or whatever might be the race that is not you. Ngiqale ngithi even in my list, in my prayer, engibhale phansi to God for a husband, what I want in a man. I know I stipulated it with a resounding, emphatic determination that funa indoda yomuntu omnyama and he must be from la eMzansi. I've been watching a whole bunch of content from Korea and Korean men being asked if they would be willing to date a foreigner, marry a foreigner. Some of the interviews, you end up in rabbit holes on YouTube. When you click on something, similar content gets recommended to you, and so out of curiosity you click on there because I'm still a single woman, so I'm like, okay, if I move to a different country that's homogeneously Korean, listen, I'm gonna be just encircled by largely Korean men, so would I be willing to be with a Korean guy? And the answer to that question was not even so much would I be willing to be with a Korean guy, it was would a Korean guy would be willing to be with me, because I don't really have issues with different races, and so far as a person is godly, I'm good, right? Yeah. However, because of my curiosity as to whether or not Korean men would ever be attracted to black women, I then click on this video, and these it was largely young people being asked this question because it is assumed that you are waiting on the Lord for love, or rather just waiting for love when you're still young. When you're my age, it is expected of you to either be divorced or married or just a spinster. You're not even, like, you're done, right? But I'm not done, I'm still waiting. I go in there, I click on it, and the general theme, not so much consensus, but the general theme response from all of these Koreans, you would be tempted to be offended by it. Korean men, well, there were women and men asked the question, but I of course was listening out to the men's response because I'm a woman and we don't do LGB whatever, okay? So I'm listening to the men largely, and their response is resonantly and just largely, no, I don't want to be with someone that's not Korean. And their response is largely language barrier and culture. They're my people. I can only be with a Korean woman. Largely, they're like, I can only be with a Korean woman. Yeah, every so often there's one guy that's like, yeah, I'm willing to. A lot of them, some of them even said that they're willing to date a foreigner, but they will never marry one. Y'all, and this is recreational dating, where you can date a person that you can't fathom being with in marriage. That's the thing that's killing you. That's the thing that's giving you STDs, and that's the thing that's making you meat for the devouring by ritualists. Do you understand what I'm saying? That you can say in yourself, even though you're still with them. That's why that's why there's so much heartbreak. That's why so many women bandlisa ngekorobela madoda. Baba forced to kutin bachade ngoba you make them placeholders and you are with them for like 5 years and then you don't propose marriage. Next thing you marry her anyway. Abantu bazibuza ukuthi ha kanti Jabu wasn't she a placeholder? Because you were making her a placeholder. It's just a powder keg for so many other sins. This like recreational dating where you can thoroughly be with someone even though you would never marry them, but nonetheless, one of the responses some of the responses amidst these Korean men were that some of them said that they would date a foreigner, but they would definitely never marry one. And you would be tempted to be offended as a foreigner, like a black person or a white person or whatever other race. You would be tempted to be offended. But if at all you're gonna put yourself in their shoes and think as they think, and again, I did that not by just moonwalking backwards into the past, into my own mindset. And I remember that there was a time when, just like these Korean men and women, I said the same thing. If somebody were to ask me, would you ever be with a black man? Not a black man, but with any other race of man, white, Indian, colored, whatever might be the thing, the alternative race in the country, well, in the world at large, would you? And my answer was always a resounding no. My answer was always a resounding no. Like when I was growing up, I was like, I don't want to be with anything but black. And I would even go so far as to say, once you go black, you don't go back. Why? Culture, our languages, and in particular I wanted one from South Africa because I wanted to be able to speak with him Istswana Sam, Izulu Sam, as Tlhaloganye, even though he can't speak it. As a black person, it's very hard. As a black person from South Africa, which is a multilingual country, it's very hard if you've grown up in our culture to just stick with one language from beginning to end. Ndefela all day long ubizwe na wesiZulu pure, yo. Ubizwe na Westwana pure, yo. When ubizwe West Afrikaans pure. Or no, rather let me say black person in particular, pure. No. On any given day, if you're interacting with fellow black people in this country, you will speak all the languages that you've been exposed to from youth that you are comfortable with. And with me, it's Zulu, Tswana, and of course English. I don't get through the day, if at all I'm gonna be liaising with other people, without mixing one little sentence, one tiny little sentence, just one, with like 3 languages. It's easy, easy. You see, I've just done it. In one sentence, I don't know how many words, I don't know how many languages, and there's only lazy language. Like, listen, this whole entire like paragraph that I've just spoken now has Zulu, Tswana, and English in it. Every so often, in Afrikaans, because I can. And a black person in this country, having grown up with our cultural nuances, will not struggle to understand what in the world we're like, listen, girl, like, yo, communication. What's good? Nah. I mean, I'm phoning from Karabo. 1 minute you're talking to her, next thing like dog, like she's a maze, she's a labyrinth to understand. I know she must just stick to writing essays, because then on that day she'll stick to one language. Maramona, I know she must just stick to formal writing, formal letters. Palama email, no, black people would not be there. And you see how easy it is for you when you're out there. The other day we were looking for laptops, computers at Incredible Connection or wherever. And the guy there was a black guy, the consultant. And my mom and I and questions. And Haribu was just like this. So I mean, like, this computer, why what's the difference? Another person from another culture would come in here and be like, listen, I could keep up. I could. If you just stuck to English. And if I'm learning Zulu, I could keep up if you just stuck to Zulu. I could keep up if you just stuck to Tswana. If I'm really trying hard to learn a foreign language, I could keep up if you just stuck to one language. I could keep up if, Karabo, you just stuck to one language, but that's just the issue over here. You've spoken Zulu, Tswana, and English in one sitting, and I was following along when you were speaking Tswana because I'm learning Tswana. And then you just hoid English in there and then switched into Zulu and then back to Tswana again. Listen, Wanglahla, and that's something that only another South African black person would get. And communication is huge in relationships. It's very hard, especially if you're not like a little Model C that grew up in Defela twanging all your life. Because when you are voice and there's like blood in your cheeks to a point of looking red, looking like a guava, you're probably a lot of times if you are native Tswana or native whatever South African language, Venda. Although you're gonna tell a person off, before you will jump into English. And then every so often you will jump into English, but just to bandwagon on it because largely we don't know our dialect pure. So that's when we add English. This whole thing that you're doing right now, this whole thing that you're doing right now, it would have been too taxing for you to use isiTswana if at all you are one of those lackluster dropping the ball when it comes to Tswana type Tswana people. So although get into an easier English, which it tends to be easy for most of us South Africans to enter into English, but as soon as you find your bearings again, you're going back into Tswana or you're going back into Zulu. And that is something that I just inherently knew and understood even before I came to Christ. So I mean, of course, when you grow up in a culture, there are certain things that you end up loving about your own people. And with black guys, I loved how they spoke, especially like ghetto talk, like Kasi talk. They're tsotsi dull, if you will, how they talk among each other. That stuff is a massive like turn on for black girls having grown up in that space. Like ukuluma, like you know when guys are like, as a chick you'll be like, listen, I'm telling the truth, or as a chick you will say he's telling the truth, or you will say ki one nete. As a woman, you will say uwanete or I'm telling the truth or he's telling the truth. But a guy will say uringivar or ngiringivar. We know what in the world that is. And to ring, first of all, that sentence it's a South African collocation, and you can't call it an English collocation. Neither can you call it an Afrikaans collocation. Neither can you call it a Zulu collocation. But it's got English, Zulu, and Afrikaans, and it is understood by black people only. And it uses idiomatic language that is metaphoric across those three languages. Sometimes sometimes the language is an aphorism in that the translation is directly meaningful in its interpretation to the language itself. Mara, in one sentence, there's like an aphorism and idiom, and the whole thing is a collocation. But it is only understood by black South Africans. U means he or she is the subject. Ring is literally like ring, like ring, like telephone call. Like as in I'm ringing you, I'm calling you, right? And under normal circumstances, the better word to use would be call or phone or pelela. I don't even want to get into that. That's another colloquial term to speak to calling someone in Zulu, but it is derived from English. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I should not have even said belela because that's just another description, an explanation altogether. It's like American Ebonics. You would have to look sort of kind of be Ebonics. You would have to be an American black person to understand every last word within their Ebonics, but some of us have adopted it because of watching so much of their entertainment. Mara, here in this country, we are not as influential on international cultures as American Ebonics are influential to the rest of us. So a lot of us understand American Ebonics, but our version of Ebonics will just throw you unless you're from South Africa. So uringivar, like I said, u is a subject. It means you, he, she, whoever, that individual. U is they, he or she, right? Ringi is from the English word ring of which speaks of indeed ringing, like a telephone bell, like a clicking, like a ring, right? And in the context of ring, not so much ring, but ring, right? As in I'm ringing you, but under normal circumstances, you would say I'm calling you, right? Or I'm phoning you. You wouldn't say I'm ringing you, but we choose to use ring. For what reason? I don't know. It was just chosen. We choose to say ring, right? And in Tswana, no, in Zulu, when you are using a verb, it tends to end like, what's that thing? I think it's called assimilation. When the end of one word and the beginning of another word come together and create a different sound altogether. So the full word would be uringa ivar, but you see, you drop the a and you link it to the e. That's assimilation, so it becomes uringivar. You don't say uringa ivai. You say ivar. You say uringi vai. You drop the a altogether. I think it's either called assimilation or there's another word for it. When I was studying intonation and rhythm and whatnot, that stuff sort of kind of came up. Anyway, whatever. So however, in Zulu, when you are doing something like a doing word, a verb, it tends to end with an a, ah. So uyalala, ula, ula in the present tense. It's ulala no nombobi udla ne whatever uhlala ane whatever. So udula, it tends to end with an a, but if at all you are linking it to another a noun, right? You say e, like a proper noun or even a common noun. You tend to link the the determiner for it is E, which would be the tantamount of the or a, right? As in the door or a cat. Yeah. So the a cat or the a cat or the door is E in Zulu. So then it's uringa. So that is a person is ringing, right? Know how it ends with a, and then E is the truth. Var is Afrikaans for truth. Var is Afrikaans for truth, and die waarheid in Afrikaans is the truth, right? Waarheid is truth, and var is true, as in the noun form, whereas truth is also a noun. Yeah. So it's like uringi var. So now in speaking to the ring thing, why they use ring of which speaks to ringing like as in a telephone call, but in this instance it's not so much a telephone call but talk, because when you talk, because one of the ways in which you talk to a person is indeed to call them, right? One of the ways to talk to a person is to call them, so they synonymize calling a person with talking, so therefore they use ring, as opposed to, like I said, call or phone. I don't know why they don't use any other word. But ring, so u is subject, ring is to talk and not to call. But it is derived from the English word ring, 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 ring that you do in order to talk to someone. Okay, a phone call. And then E is, remember, the article or the determiner, that is the truth. And then what is this? Var is truth or true, really depending on how you want to use it over there. But in this instance, it is truth. Right? So when you say uringivar, the full word without contractions or without I think it's called assimilation, but I think there's another word for it. Maybe I would have had listened to that. Knowledge, what is the word that I'm looking for? Retention is becoming a little bit of a thief in the night right now. It's just not happening, or rather there is a thief of knowledge retention, but the full sentence is uringa I uringa I var. Ring of which is an English word, a var of which is an Afrikaans word. U is subject for in Zulu for he or she, and then E is, like I said, the article or the in this instance is a determiner that is possessive of the word var, the truth, right? Yeah. So the whole thing means he's speaking truth. He's telling the truth. He's speaking facts. There's another way to say the same thing synonymously, but it's not exactly. So the direct translation is he is speaking the truth. He's telling more like telling the truth. He's telling the truth. Like he's speaking facts. It's more colloquial than it is formal. So frankly, the way that it would translate in English, the best translation in English would be he's speaking facts. Like, you know, it's a statement to speak. It's a statement of solemnity. It is a statement that is used to communicate to people when somebody is speaking very ideologically deep matters, right? And people are like nodding their heads. And while they might want to disagree with you, while they might want to ignore that it's a reality that which you are saying, when they get honest with themselves, their response in solemnity would be uringivar. It's a statement of solemnity. It is an idiomatic and I think the word here that I'm looking for is aphoremic, or it's an idiomatic collocation in different languages, understood, however, only by Black South Africans who speak all these languages. And it's made up of English, Afrikaans, and Zulu. And it means he's speaking facts. He's talking facts. And that is the most appropriate translation, even in English. Because the only time in English when you would respond to somebody by saying he's speaking facts is if somebody is saying something that is taboo, generally resisted, however, that is ringing true. And so in solemnity, people gotta just admit that the truth is the truth is the truth. While we might not want to agree with this person, listen, she's right. She's right. So how you would say that in English is she's speaking facts. You wouldn't say she's speaking facts to, for instance, a lecturer at a university teaching you on the human anatomy. It's true that that lecturer is speaking facts when they teach you on the human anatomy, but the more appropriate terminology would be perhaps more formal in a lecture setting on some, the lecturer is teaching facts about the human anatomy. Whereas when somebody is speaking ideological topics that are of human significance on that anthropological layer, when people want to argue and nod and basically have their minds changed even though they were resisting an argument, they will say he's speaking facts, yo. He's speaking facts. And to say uringivar is along the lines of he's speaking facts. It's somebody commenting on something that everybody would love to deny, but that is obviously true. They would love to deny it, but it's obviously true. So in solemnity, they say uringivar. In solemnity, that person will say uringivar. Do you understand what I'm saying? And as black people in this country, we get stuff like that, right? As black people in here, this nation called South Africa, we get that. So when we want to solemnly admit a truth we were in denial about at first, we say of the individual speaking this truth that ano shemuringivar. And I mean, we also add shame in there because it's another like language, like it's an entrant of an emotion that evidences the hatred of the reality, but the acceptance of it nonetheless. Hashem, uringivar. We get that. We get that. We do. Yo, we get that. Right? And again, only in South Africa. Only. Maybe other parts of Southern Africa, but largely here. Largely here. But listen to how long it took for me to explain uringivar to people that are not from here. It's a lot, right? It's mental gymnastics. It's mental gymnastics. And it took all of my vocabulary, as much of it as I could pull up out of my active vocabulary to explain. And some people still might not get it, though I think I've done a really good job to explain to those who could get it. I think I've done a good job to explain, but there will always be people that still don't catch, right? That still don't get. And that is always going to be a risk when somebody has got your particular cultural nuance as a second language. Because South Africa is a whole cultural nuance on its own. The whole culture, all of our languages, and especially within the black community, it's on it like as a just nje as letsopa. It's a cultural nuance that is understood, listen, only by us, black people in this country in particular, only by us. To a point where, upon being asked when I was on the come up if I would ever date a guy that is not black, my answer was, it wasn't so much about race, though that did play a part out of fear of racism because of, I mean, I was born in 84, so you can understand that when you were coming up, it was not as common to find so many interracial couples. So I was always scared of discrimination, especially being the race amidst all of them that would be most discriminated against. You will remember I spoke about in the Group Areas Act of South Africa, in the days of apartheid, black people were the least benefited from this Group Areas Act. Apartheid, the whole regime, was on a sliding scale where black people were the least well treated, and the worst. Okay, least well treated is just not the best thing. It's grammatically correct, but it's not the best way to say it. The worst treated. They were the worst treated, and so of course that then translates over to now in the new democracy, we will still be the least received, the least likely to be received by other races. And so I was always scared of that. It was never about not liking white people or any other race of people, colors or Indians. It was just a fear of being discriminated against and being on the receiving end of hate, more even than my either white partner, colored or Indian or whatever other race. It was never about me not wanting any of those races. I've never been racist, thank God. That was just never a problem that I ever had. But I certainly did have insecurities about mistreatment from other races based on where we came from. So that was an issue. Race did play a role. For the reasons I've just highlighted, it was not about color. It was not about just the discrimination on the basis of color. There were all these other foundational nuances. And then secondly, it was about, like again, therein like it's so hard for me to not speak any of my languages when I'm speaking English.